Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Today, fasting for Ekadashi. So, we will read from the Ekadashi Mahatmya, Glories of Ekadashi, dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Story of Ekadashi, Mahaprasad on Ekadashi, Dwadashi, Ekadashi morning meditation on the Lord, frequently asked questions on the Ekadashi. The story of Ekadashi. The article was originally written in 1956 by Sri Candra Chakravarti, a disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and in 1979 translated to English by Venkatadas Brahmachari. Many devotees are very inquisitive about appearance of Sri Ekadashi and about her special characteristics. Therefore, I am presenting this description from the 14th chapter of the Padma Purana, from section entitled Kriya Sagara Sara. Once great sage Jaimini Rishi said to his spiritual master Srila Vyasadeva, O Gurudeva, previously by your mercy you described to me the history of the glories of the Ganga river, the benefits of worshipping Vishnu, the giving of grains in charity, the giving of water in charity, and the magnanimity of drinking the water that has washed the feet of the Brahmanas. Most of the sages, Sri Gurudeva, now with great enthusiasm, I desire to hear the benefits of fasting on Ekadashi and the appearance of Ekadashi. Kashmad Ekadashi Jata Tasyaha Ko Va Vidir Dvijakada Va Kriyate Kimba Phalam Kim Va Vadaswameka Va Pujyatama Tatra Devata Sadgunarnava Akurvatah Satkodosha Etanme Bhaktum Arhasi. O Gurudeva, when did Ekadashi take birth and from whom did she appear? What are the rules of fasting on the Ekadashi? Please describe the benefits of following this vow and when it should be followed. Who is that utmost worshipable presiding deity of Sri Ekadashi? What are the faults in not following Ekadashi properly? Please bestow your mercy upon me and tell about these subjects, as you are the only personality able to do so. Srila Vyasadeva, upon hearing this inquiry of Jaimini Rishi, became situated in transcendental bliss. Brahmana sage Jaimini, the results of following Ekadashi can only be prescribed by the Supreme Lord Narayana, because Sri Narayana is the only personality capable of describing that. But I will give you a very brief description in answer to your question. At the beginning of the material creation, the Supreme created the moving and non-moving living entities within this world, made of 5 gross material elements. Simultaneously, for the purpose of putting the human beings, he created a personality whose form was embodiment of sin, Papa Purusha. The different limbs of this personality were constructed of the various sinful activities. His head was made of the sin of murdering a Brahmana. His 2 eyes were the form of drinking intoxicants. His mouth was made of the sin of stealing gold. His were the form of the sin of having illicit connection with the spiritual master's wife. His nose, sin of killing one's wife. His arms, of the sin of killing a cow. His neck, made of the sin of stealing accumulated wealth. His chest, of the sin of abortion. His lower chest, of the sin of having sex with another's wife. His stomach, of the sin of killing one's relatives. His navel, of the sin of killing those who are dependent on him. His waist, of the sin of self appraisal. is thighs of the sin of offending the Guru, his genital of the sin of selling one's daughter, his buttocks of the sin of telling confidential matters, his feet of the sin of killing one's father, and his hair the form of less severe sinful activities. In this way, a horrible personality embodying all the sinful activities and vices was created. His bodily color is black and his eyes are yellow. He inflicts extreme misery upon persons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, upon seeing this personality of sin, began to think to himself as follows: I am the creator of the miseries and happiness for the living entities. I am their master because I have created this personality of sin who gives distress to all dishonest, deceitful, and sinful persons. Now I must create someone who will control this personality. At this time, Sri Bhagavan created the personality known as Yamaraj and the different hellish planetary systems. Those living entities who are very sinful will be sent after death to Yamaraj, who will in turn, according to their sins, send them to hellish region to suffer. After this adjustment had been made, the Supreme Lord, who is the giver of distress and happiness to the living entities, went to the house of Yamaraja with the help of Garuda, the king of birds. When Yamaraja saw that Lord Vishnu had arrived, he immediately washed his feet and made an offering unto him. He then had him sit upon a golden throne. The Supreme Lord Vishnu became seated on the throne, whereupon he heard loud crying sounds coming from the southern direction. He became surprised by this and thus inquired from Yamaraj, from where is this loud crying coming? Yamaraj in reply said, O Deva, the different living entities of the earthly planetary systems have fallen into the hellish regions, being extremely for their misdeeds. The horrible crying is because of suffering from the inflictions of their past bad karma actions. After hearing this, Supreme Lord Vishnu went to the hellish region to the south. When the inhabitants saw who had come, they began to cry even louder. The heart of the Supreme Lord Vishnu became filled with compassion. Lord Vishnu thought to himself, I have created all this progeny, and it is because of me that they are suffering. Srila Vyasadeva continued, Jaimini, just listen to what the Supreme Lord did next. एतच्चन्यच्च विप्रश्रे विचिन्त्य कारुणमयः बभूव सहस तत्र स्व एकादशी तिथिः. After the merciful Supreme Lord thought over what he had previously considered, he suddenly manifested from his own form the deity of the lunar day Ekadashi. Afterwards, the different sinful living entities began to follow the vow of Ekadashi and were then elevated quickly to the abode of Vaikuntha. O my child Jaimini, therefore the lunar of Ekadashi is the self same form of the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the super soul within the heart of the living entities. Sri Ekadashi is the utmost pious activity as the head among all vows. Following the ascension of Sri Ekadashi, that personality who is a form of the sinful gradually saw the influence she had. He appeared Lord Vishnu with doubts in his heart and began offering many prayers. He approached Lord Vishnu with doubts in his heart and began offering many prayers. Whereupon Lord Vishnu became very pleased and said, I have become very pleased by your nice offerings. What boon is it that you want? The Papa Purusha, the sinful person, replied, I am your created progeny, and it is through me that you wanted distress given to the living entities who are very sinful. But now, by the influence of Sri Ekadashi, I have become all but destroyed. Prabhu, after I die, all of your parts and parcels who have accepted material bodies will become liberated and therefore return to the abode of Vaikuntha. This liberation of all living entities takes place, then who will carry on your activities? There will be to enact the pastimes in the earthly planetary systems. O Keshava, if you want these eternal pastimes to carry on, then you please save me from the fear of Ekadashi. No type of pious activity can bind the Ekadashi only. Being your own manifested form can impede me. Out of fear of Sri Ekadashi, I have fled and taken shelter of men, animals, insects, hills, trees, moving and non-moving living entities, rivers, oceans, forests, heavenly, earthly, and hellish systems, demigods, and the Gandharvas. I cannot find a place where I can be free from fear of Sri Ekadashi. O my master, I am a product of your creation, so therefore, very mercifully, direct me to a place where I can reside fearlessly. Srila Vyasadeva then said to Jaimini, after saying this, the embodiment of all sinful activities, Papa Purusha, fell down at the feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is the destroyer of all miseries, and began to cry. Lord Vishnu, observing the condition of the Papa Purusha with laughter, began to speak thus: O Papa Purusha, rise up, don't lament any longer, just listen, and I will tell you where you can stay on the auspicious lunar day of Ekadashi. On the day of Ekadashi, which is the benefactor of the three worlds, you can take shelter of footsteps in the form of grains. There is no reason to worry about this anymore because my form as Sri Ekadashi Devi will no longer after giving direction to the Papa Purusha. The Supreme Lord Vishnu disappeared and the Papa Purusha returned to the performance of his own activities. Therefore, those persons who are serious about the ultimate truth, benefit benefit for the soul will never eat grain on Ekadashi Tithi. According to the instruction of Lord Vishnu, every kind of sinful activity that can be found in the material world takes its residence in this space of footsteps grain. Whoever follow Ekadashi is freed from all sins and never enters into hellish regions. If one does not follow Ekadashi because of illusion, he is still considered the utmost sinner. For every mouthful of grain that is eaten by a resident of the earthly region, one receives the effect of killing millions of Brahmanas. It is definitely necessary that one give up eating grains on Ekadashi. Very strongly say again and again on Ekadashi, don't eat grains, don't eat grains, don't eat grains. Whether one be a Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, or of any family, he should follow the lunar of Ekadashi. From this, the perfect Varna and Ashrama will be attained, especially since even if one by trickery follows Ekadashi, all of his sin became destroyed and he very easily attains the supreme goal, the abode of Vaikuntha. Next is rules for Ekadashi. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada makes an interest comment in his purport to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 9.24342. You should recommend the avoidance of mixed Ekadashi and the performance of pure Ekadashi. You should also describe there is fault in not observing this. One should be very careful as far as these items are concerned. If one is not careful, one will be negligent in executing devotional service. The Hari Bhakti Vilasa gives many rules for observing Ekadashi, and these are discussed at length in volume 2 of Panchava Pradipa. Here, however, we will mention only a few points concerning Ekadashi in relation to general standards of deity worship in ISKCON. In a conversation, Srila Prabhupada said that grains should not be offered to either the spiritual master or Lord Chaitanya and his associate Ekadashi devotee. On Ekadashi, can we offer the deity grains? Prabhupada, oh yes, but not Guru. Ekadashi is absorbed by Jiva Tattva, not by Vishnu. We are fasting for clearing our material disease. But Radha Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also may not be offered grains because he is playing the part of a devotee. Only Radha Krishna, Jagannatha can be offered grains, otherwise Guru Gauranga no. And the prasad should not be taken by anyone. It should be kept for the next day. Srila Prabhupada Room Conversation, Tokyo, April 22, 1972. If there is only one plate for all deities and the main deity is Krishna or Jagannatha, grains should be offered as on normal days. If the main deities are Gauranitai or only non-grain preparations, it is better to replace the normally offered grain preparations with the non-grain preparations so that there are the same number of preparations as on normal days. If, however, grain preparations are being cooked for Krishna or Jagannatha, it may be difficult to cook additional non-grain preparations for the spiritual master and Gauranitai. In that case, serve larger quantities of the non-grain preparations to the spiritual master and Gauranitai and prepare the offering plate for Krishna or as on normal days. If you are cooking for a restaurant where grains will be served on Ekadashi, you may offer the grains to Gauranitai with the understanding that they will offer the bhoga to Krishna. What constitutes grains on Ekadashi? Srila Prabhupada specified food grains and beans, pulses as foods that must be avoided on Ekadashi. One may use spices for cooking, although mustard seeds should be avoided. You should not use powdered asafoetida, hing, since it generally contains grains. Sesame seeds are also to be avoided, except on Ekadashi, when they may be offered and eaten. Do not use any cooking ingredients that might be mixed with grains, such as ghee that has been used to fry puris or spices touched by hands dusted with chapati flour. There is absolutely no doubt about what is not permissible to eat on Ekadashi, Anna. However, it is how you translate this word that makes the difference. I once again submit that what Pradyumna Prabhu told me Srila Prabhupada told him many years ago. When asked by Pradyumna what we could eat, Srila Prabhupada said, fruits, roots, nuts, milk. If you stick to these types of foods, you should be fine. Of course, the sure thing is to fast completely. Water, of course, can be taken except if you wish to do nirjala. Someone who is very strictly observing Ekadashi avoid all spices except pepper, rock salt, and cumin. You should also eschew certain vegetables such as tomatoes, cauliflower, eggplant, and leafy vegetables. Temple kitchens need not follow these strictures since Srila Prabhupada did not establish them. Individual devotees may observe these rules if they choose, either making the arrangements for cooking on Ekadashi, eating uncooked foods such as fruit, or observing full fasting. These arrangements should not interfere with the temple cooking schedule. Mahaprasad on Ekadashi. Strict followers of Vaishnava regulations avoid eating any Mahaprasad from an offering that includes grains. The Shastra explains that the Papa Purusha, sin personified, takes shelter in grains on Ekadashi, and therefore we avoid grains at all cost on that day. Not even risking taking non-grain preparations of Mahaprasad from an offering plate containing grains. Ekadashi Mahaprasad should be stored until the next day. If that is not possible, it can be distributed to persons not strictly following Vaishnava regulations or to animals. In fact, Mahaprasad maintains its purity despite the presence of the Papa Purusha, and therefore it will purify anyone who eats it. Nevertheless, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being strict followers of Vaishnava regulations, avoid Mahaprasad on that day because their strict sadhana will be hampered by the presence of the Papa Purusha. Dwadashi, the day after Ekadashi, the day of breaking the Ekadashi fast, to observe Ekadashi properly, one should strictly observe the breaking of this fast. One should break the fast after the sunrise of the Dwadashi, after the first quarter of the Dwadashi Tithi has passed. But before the Dwadashi Tithi has ended, after taking morning bath, one should offer the Upavasa to the Lord. Ajnana Timirandasya Vratanena Keshava Ajnana Timirandasya Vrate Nanena Keshava Prasida Sumuko Nata Jnana Drishti Bhava. O Keshava, be pleased with this Vrata personified by one fallen in the modes of darkness. O Lord, bestow your hands of knowledge upon me. One should observe similar rules as on Dashami for health and common sense, what to speak of spiritual development. It is wise to eat only once going into a fast and coming out of a fast. The meal should also be light from an Ayurvedic perspective, especially if one is fast entirely or even just drinking water. The malas, the stool, absorb the toxins in the body when fasting. So, on the day the fast is broken, it is a good idea to take a gentle laxatives consisting of 50-50 warm milk and water with some rock candy sweeten it. Generally 4-5 cups drunk up to, and within half an hour to an hour one will expel the malas. After this lunch time one takes one's meals of prasadam. One should not bathe the deity on the Dwadashi day, but they bathe the Lord in ghee in the night. But if one does, then it should be performed before sun's Mahadwadashi. Sometimes, due to this manner in which the Ekadashi Tithi and the Dwadashi Tithis are positioned in relation, there are 6 different cases. The Vrata is observed on the Dwadashi and the fast is broken the next day, the Trayodasi. Such a fast day is called a Mahadwadashi to distinguish it from regular Dwadashi, which is the day to break the Ekadashi. Ekadashi morning meditation on the Lord lotus feet. Om Dhamodarai Namaha Thais. Om Madhavai Namaha private parts. Om Kamapataye Namaha hips. Om Vamanaya Namaha navel. Om Padmanabhaya Namaha stomach. Vishnu Mutaye Namaha heart. Om Jnana Gamyaya Namaha throat. Om Shrikantaya Namaha arms. Om Sahasrabhave Namaha lotus eyes. Om Param Yogine Namaha forehead. Om Urughayai Namaha nose. Om Narakeshwarai Namaha hair. Om Sarvadaya Namaha head. Om Sahasra Shirshaya Namaha. Frequently asked questions on Ekadashi. The importance of Ekadashi for worshippers of Sriman Narayana cannot be emphasized enough. Ekadashi is also called Hari Vasa, Lord Hari's day. All our elders have steadfastly observed the Ekadashi, Dwadashi, Vratam or Upavasam. On this sacred day, Upa means near and Vasam means stay. Stay close to Hari, contemplating on his Kalyana Gunas. This is the summum bonum of Ekadashi Vratam. Do we need to fast on Ekadashi since Upavasam does not directly cannot fasting? A question may be asked as to the need to fast on Ekadashi. Shastra give unequivocal answers. The following quote from our Shastra should clear any doubts in this regard. Ekadashyam tu yobungte mohe na vritti chetasah Suklayamata Shuklayamat Krishnayam Nirayam Yati Sadruvamaha. One who eats on Ekadashi on account of an intellect clouded by delusion, be it the Sukla or the Krishna Paksha, he goes to hell. This is certain. Ashta Varshadiko Yastu Ashli Nirhi Puryat Bhunkte Manavha Papo Vishnorahani Chagate. One who is greater than 8 years of age but has indeed not completed 80. The human who eats when Vishnu's day arrives consumes verily sin itself. In addition, several scientific findings go to prove the benefits of fasting on one's health. This should further reinforce one's determination to fast. When should one observe fast? When to observe the Shivratam? Sometimes Ekadashi can be combined with Dashami or Dwadashi. It appears that Shastras are strict concerning the observed Vratam. If on a day, if both Dashami and Ekadashi are present, that day must be avoided and the fasting should be observed the following day. Here is what the Shastras tell us. Kalavede tu Viprendra Dasham Ekadashi Yadi Suraya Binduna Prishtam Gangamba Ivasanta. If there is even the slightest contact of Dashami with Ekadashi, then as with Ganges water, Ganga water that has a drop of liquor mixed in it, such is to be rejected. Therefore, the pollution of contact with another date is so great that even a small amount of it would render the observance worthless. एकादश्य यद ब्रह्मणः दिनक्षय दिनयतितर भवेतः उपोष्य द्वादशी पुण्य त्रयोदशीयं तु paranamah. If on the day of Ekadashi, Adinakshaya Titi, incomplete date, occurs, then fasting is to be undertaken on Dwadashi and Parane on the. Therefore, such a situation merely reschedules the observance and does not excuse it. Bahva Gama Virodeshu Brahmaneshu Vivadishu Bhuposhya Dwadashi Punya Pakshayoru Bayorapi. When there is a conflict between different almanacs and when the Brahmanas disagree on Ekadashi, fast then on the pious Dwadashi in either fortnight, that is, in the waxing or the waning of the moon. Therefore, when there is conflict among various texts and when one is unable to decide when the correct Ekadashi is, one must fast instead of day that follows. How to break your fast on Dwadashi? Timely breaking of the fast on Dwadashi is as important as observing the fast on the Ekadashi. Normally, fast must be broken before Triyodashi arrives. If there is insufficient time, the fasting can be broken with water. From the Shastras, we find Parai Tvo Dakenapi Bunjano Naiva Dushyati Ashanishita Yasmadapo Vidvat Biri Ritaha Ambasa Kevalenaiva Karishe Vrata Paranamaha. If there is insufficient time, there is no flaw if water is consumed for paran. For it is stated by the Lord that water has the property that when consumed, it is still as if one has not consumed. Thus, with only water do I perform the ceremonial parane. If there is not enough time for a proper paran, then the fast may be broken merely by sipping water. There is no flaw of multiple paranes on this account, as the wise have decreed that such a procedure does not count as multiple paranes. Having performed the ceremonial parane in this manner, one may have a proper meal later, although the time later may not be appropriate for parane itself. Dwadashana pramoktavya yavad yavadhayu pravartate archaniyo rishikesho vishuddhena antaratman. The Dwadashi is not to be neglected. As long as life goes on, Rishikesha is to be worshipped